Isn't it amazing just how quickly something can go downhill? After praising the amazing work of Disgaea 2, I'm gonna spend 20 minutes making fun of its next entry, Disgaea 3. Probably considered the oddball in the series, it should have been the gap that separated the two eras of Disgaea. At this point in the series, we were in the next generation of consoles. The PS4 was here and everyone was wowed to see what this next gen hardware could do. And then NIS came around and dropped Disgaea 3. Now you may have noticed something about this entry. It looks a lot like Disgaea 2. In fact, apart from the new characters and levels, I wouldn't be surprised if the assets were directly ripped from that game. To add insult to injury, pretty much all the new casts introduced in this game have DLC in Dark Hero Days, the PSP port of Disgaea 2, which for me at least kind of makes the prospect of purchasing an all new game even less appealing. We wouldn't get a true evolution of the series until D2 about 2 years later. So at that time, this was the new Disgaea, and for me, I was much happier replaying Disgaea 2 and downloading the DLC, leaving that as being my only exposure to 3. Even Disgaea Infinite, a visual novel I did discuss recently on my channel and I'd like if you check that out, showed more progress than 3, just by having some animated portraits, something we wouldn't see again till Disgaea 4. Basically, this game was pointless. Unless you want to see the story, which to be frank, you can just watch the cutscenes online now, so there's not much point to that either. It took me a long time to even consider giving this game a chance, and at that point I had skipped straight to D2 and 4, so there wasn't much this game could really offer me that I couldn't find in any of those games. But hey, at least Mao was voiced by Vic Mignogna. Though from what I hear online, a lot of fans don't really like his portrayal in this game, so whoops. And speaking of characters, this is probably the game's strongest aspect. Everyone on the cast is pretty enjoyable to listen to, and I might even consider them more memorable than those in 2 and even the original. Even though the supporting casts are great, Raspberry, Sapphire and Olmaz, I didn't mention the chef guy because I forget his name. But also because he's probably my least favourite and it took me a little bit of time to get used to him, and honestly I took him out of my team as soon as I got him, so yeah, definitely not my favourite character. Now you could say all these characters are tropes in one way or another, but Disgaea has always been about tropes, and if you just realise that now, you probably shouldn't be playing these games. Now here's the main part of the story, the main part of the game, the gameplay, yes, the gameplay. It hits a lot of the beats found in Disgaea 2, and I must admit, it has a lot of features that make it an overall better experience. New mechanics like magic change, which turns your monsters units into weapons, making them a bit more useful than they were in previous games, though I still didn't end up using them, mostly because I rarely use monster units, but it was a nice option, and if you are someone who uses monster units, you will have a good time with that. There's now abilities, which are secondary abilities. Each character will get one unique one and another that you can choose by your own choice. And combo skills, which allow two characters to perform a unique ultimate attack. These are really cool and flashy, and they show some really cool dynamics of certain characters, which you might not see otherwise from the story. But while these are all great, they're not really viable options in the game, and are done just a little bit better in future titles. There's also a huge issue I see discussed everywhere, and yeah, it's true. The Geoblocks, probably one of the worst inclusions in this game, turning what could have been a very tactical strategy RPG into a simplistic puzzle game. They cover stages and add no challenge whatsoever, and seem to be there just to pad out the game and stages, which would otherwise be way too easy. Yeah, Disgaea has featured similar sorts of geo-puzzles in the past, but they've never been as bad as they are in this game, and they've never looked quite as ugly. They honestly take up an extremely large portion of each map, making it look like a complete cluster. As much as I want to act like I'm neutral to all these games, I have clear preferences. And honestly, Disgaea 3 is the worst one, along with Disgaea 1 for me. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but the story doesn't make up for everything else. I just can't find any joy in this one. I really can't, but if you can, honestly, that's good for you. But in terms of Disgaea games, this is probably the worst one. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I love doing these Disgaea retrospectives, and I will keep it up for 4, 5, and D2. So if you'd like to see that, and all my opinions on these games and more, please leave a comment and a like on this video, and if you could subscribe. Now, as always, I have to say goodbye.